guys, Bobby here with another video, and this week we're going to be talking about my top 5 free tabletop role-playing games. But before we get into that, I'm going to lay down some rules for what this list is. First, this is free games legally, so anything you can get for free by pirating and stuff like that, obviously, that doesn't count. It's if the game itself is available for free. Second, no unlicensed hacks or anything like that. These are original games that exist on their own, not taking a rule system that they get the SRD for free and then throwing on a license they don't actually own the license to and putting it out as a fan product. These are full games, not my top 5 fan products. I might want to do that as its own video later. And then finally, the third one that might actually be kind of the most controversial. Feel free to disagree, but it also would very much include things on the top that everyone would expect, but no SRDs or quick starts. If the game has a free quick start, that doesn't count because that is not the full game. It's just a sampling of the game that you can get for free, and then you go buy the full game. Additionally, if the game has a free SRD, such as Pathfinder is free, but the books aren't free. You can have access to most of the rules, none of the fluff. Typically, these are in searchable form, but I'm talking about free RPG books. Now, with the exception of one, I'm going to be showing physical copies. Obviously, you're not going to get someone to print the book for you for free. That costs somebody money, so all of these are free digitally. With that out of the way, we're going to start with one that people are going to immediately go, but you could use the SRD, but there is actually a full version of the rule set that is free, and that's the D&D 5e basic rules. I'm holding up the essential kit rulebook because the rules you get in the starter sets use the basic rules, not the player's handbook. Yes, this is a version of the rules that doesn't have feats, doesn't have all the races the player's handbook has, but the thing is the basic rules is a full RPG book that stand on their own as their own game. If you don't see that as all of D&D, that's fine, but this is the free version of D&D, and it's not a quick start. It's not, here's this, now you have to get more if you want to play the whole game. It's a full game. In fact, I like their DM PDF better than the DMG because it's all the DM material I actually need and all my monsters and magic items and stuff in one book, and it's much easier to pull up if I'm not going crazy. So that one gets out of the way. Also, it has to make the list because it meets all the requirements, and if you're trying to do free games to get someone into RPGs, yes, the name Dungeons and Dragons does hold a lot of weight. Now, speaking of free D&D, my actual favorite free version of D&D is Basic Fantasy. Now, this book is the one where a physical copy is probably going to run you the cheapest because Chris Gonnerman, who makes Basic Fantasy, sells these through Amazon and all other places for print on demand at cost. So while the book itself won't be free, the PDF is, and additionally, unlike a lot of other games, every single supplement that Basic Fantasy has, and there's a lot. Some are just adding some classes, some are entire books of equipment. I have a stack about that thick on my bookshelf, which this is the thickest book they have. So a stack this thick's actually like 7 or 8 books. The PDF version of every book for Basic Fantasy is free on their website. Speaking of websites, I'm going to put links down below to where you can find all of these games for free. But Basic Fantasy basically uses the 3.5 SRD, but heavily modifies it to be as close to BX D&D, the old red box, as possible. And it is a full game. It is a fun game if you want an old school feel of D&D, but don't want things like THAC0 and prefer AC. While it still has things like only the rogue has skills. It's this hybrid of old, and I'm going to say new design, even though 3.5's 20 plus years old now, but newer game design mixed with old mentalities. That this is kind of my idea of OSR. Carrying on, another physical game I have that you can get the PDF for free is Fate. This is Fate Core. The PDF for Fate Core is free, and the PDF for Fate Accelerated, which is their simplified version, I have it in paperback somewhere, it's very thin, is also free. But this whole book, the PDF version of this, is free. The book itself isn't that expensive. It's going to be coming up in another list I'm making soon, but Fate is a great setting agnostic system. I do have one issue with Fate, and it's a personal issue. I personally don't see Fate as a game system. It is a toolbox to make your system, and I wish it did a slightly better job at teaching it. But now there's more material out there to help you learn how to make all the bits and pieces than there was when it first came out. So Fate gets on here because it's one of the great free RPGs. Finally, for the books I have a physical copy of, full disclosure, I didn't pay for this book. The writer of it is a friend of mine named Richard Woolcock, and it is Tricube Tales. I will say, if you go on DriveThruRPG, it will say the PDF of this is 75 cents. This still qualifies because even on the DriveThruRPG page for this game, there is a link to where you can get the entire PDF for free and download it for free anyways, and it's the entire game. This is a great, literally pocket-sized, setting-neutral game system with rules in here to do fantasy, to do horror, to do modern, to do sci-fi, to do whatever you want. This tiny book has vehicle rules, item rules, all this. It's a very, very simple rules-light system, but it has all the tools you need to make basically any kind of game you want, as long as you're okay with it being rules-light. Now, the very opposite end of that is a game I actually do enjoy a lot, but it is a much meatier, heftier game, and that is Eclipse Phase, specifically Eclipse Phase First Edition. Second Edition is not free, but the first edition of Eclipse Phase, as well as basically all the books that came out for First Edition Eclipse Phase, are free in PDF. And this is a D100 based system. This is transhumanist to the point in sci-fi where we can just take our minds out of one body and put it in a new body with a lot of elements of horror. The game is massive. If you go into this game, I strongly suggest don't run all of it. Pick a part of the world and focus in, because there's enough detail in basically every corner of the universe of Eclipse Phase that you will be able to fully have all the fleshed out material you need for whatever part you focus in on. But it's like that for every part of the universe, and that is a ton to keep track of. But this thing handles sci-fi great. It has so many amazing things for horror. If anything, it's worth reading just for how they make AI function and the malevolent things AI figured out how to do to basically rewire humans using our own biology and the electrical signals we produce naturally to essentially hack genetic beings as well, is terrifying, but also amazing. So that was 5 RPGs that are full RPG core books that are free. And next week, I have another video we're working on, but that's going to be next week. If you enjoy this video or any of the other stuff we make here, please check out our Patreon where you can be a supporter. You get videos early. You get all kinds of exclusive stuff. We have levels where you get exclusive GM material, stuff where the things we're publishing you get access to and get to play test as well. All of that's in our Patreon, or you can check out our live shows where we run a lot of these games over on Role Plays Live on Twitch. But till then, we'll catch you next week. Bye!